Hi, I'm Coach Dan Gordon, and welcome to my podcast for badass entrepreneurs only. If you're an entrepreneur who loves hitting it hard, growing your business, and learning from billionaires how to succeed, then you are clearly badass and you are going to love my show. But if you just want to take life slow and easy, you aren't badass, don't even bother listening. For the rest of you, strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only is taking off now. Hi, I'm Coach Dan Gordon. Today I'm speaking with 8-time Emmy-nominated producer Deena Katz. Deena has produced notable mega-hit shows like Dancing with the Stars and Masked Singer and Real Time with Bill Maher, and plenty of others. If you want to know what it takes to reach the top of any highly competitive field like television, you're going to want to listen to what Deena Katz has to say. But before we get there, know this. Right now, in this moment, you have the power to live your life unlimited. For Badass Entrepreneurs Only can show you the way. Today, I promise to open your mind, to set your thinking on fire, to pull back the curtain on your world and show you what you're truly capable of achieving. Come with me and enter a new reality of infinite success. The doors are locked. The stage is set. It's time to get badass. Ready? Let's go. Have you ever, in your life, allowed self-doubt to stop you from achieving something you really want? Of course you have. We all have. There's absolutely no shame in it. We don't have to wonder if we're going to feel self-doubt when doing something new. We always will. So the question is, how do we make sure that self-doubt doesn't completely stop us when taking on something new and amazing? Well, it would be nice if we could overcome self-doubt by just thinking happy thoughts or saying, I can do it. But those are only short-term fixes. They don't actually relieve your doubt. Over my career, and having helped hundreds of people overcome their self-doubt, I've developed a 3-part strategy that works every time. And here it is. Step 1, slow it way down. When doing something new, be kind to yourself. Don't just throw yourself in the deep end and expect to swim. That's traumatizing. Ease into it. Give yourself a long timeline for success. Slow it way down. Step 2, give yourself an abundance of gold stars. Never tell yourself you're not doing enough. You'll only feel discouraged. Instead, honor every accomplishment, no matter how small or incremental. Create a campaign of self-encouragement and build on it. Give yourself an abundance of gold stars. And step 3, don't compare and despair. At some point, you'll find yourself evaluating your progress against someone else. Don't do it. Remember, it's not the speed at which you pursue your dream, it's the determination, your ability to stick with it. That's what's most important. Simply take the next step and keep moving forward. Don't compare and despair. Winston Churchill said that success is the ability to go from one failure to another without losing enthusiasm. But even more important than staying enthusiastic is staying kind to yourself. If you'd like some help with this, I'd like to send you a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to my personal cell phone, 213-409-8366. This book will help you kill those stories and excuses that hold you back. Again, text the word GAP, G-A-P, to my cell phone, 213-409-8366, and get a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story, and Take Action. Well, let me introduce to you Deena Katz. Deena is co-executive producer of the mega hit, The Masked Singer. She's also co-executive producer of another mega hit, Dancing with the Stars. In fact, Deena has produced over 15 television shows and over 15 years in television. She has been consistently successful in the hard-to-crack, stress-filled, and let's face it, male-dominated world of television entertainment. Most people, when they come up against huge walls, they tend to take their toys and go home. But Deena Katz not only got past those walls, she obliterated them. Today, we're going to find out exactly what it takes to stay focused, stay determined, and stand in your truth when others want to take you down. Not surprisingly, Deena is using her position to empower the voices of women all across Los Angeles. As co-chair of the Women's March LA, she mirrors their mission to support women's rights, healthcare, and income equality. They work to deliver loud and clear the message, we will not go back. I love it. We're so unbelievably fortunate to have her with us here today. So let's get badass. Deena Katz, welcome, welcome, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Hi, nice to be here. I'm thinking about my gold stars now. I was really motivated by your opening, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm motivated just looking at your IMDb page. I mean, like, oh, my God, there's your list. Your list of credits are so impressive. Like, it's amazing. Most people, and me included, like, we'd have no idea where to begin cracking this industry, and you've reached a pinnacle, right? So I have so many things I want to talk to you about, and certainly the Women's March LA. But would it be okay if we just jump right in and talk about the mega hits that you produce? Would that be fine?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay.
We're gonna work. In fact, I'm sitting in stage on one of them right now. So here we go.
That's great. So, like, where are you?
I am at the studio shooting Masked Singer as we speak. So hence the really pretty backdrop that I have going on. I'm in an office by myself at our production office. So
for the people who are listening, she has this amazing backdrop. It's so beautiful.
It's the best thing you've ever seen. Imagine the most amazing backdrop.
You'll just have to look at it on my YouTube channel. So I look at a show like Dancing with the Stars, and from an audience perspective, it's like, all right, stars dancing, like that's a really good idea. But going from a good idea to making it a hugely successful show that's lasted for 30 seasons, that doesn't happen just by accident.
Right, exactly.
And it's so important because so many entrepreneurs come up with a great idea and they think that it's the idea that's going to make it successful, but it's not, right? It's something very different. So if you would take us back to the beginning of Dancing with the Stars, how it came about and what you did to put it on top for 30 seasons.
It's interesting. The BBC had a show called Strictly Come Dancing that was a hit in the UK, which is actually still on the air. And ABC was thinking about picking it up. I'm the first person in America hired on that show. I was brought in, gosh, it must have probably now been talking about perseverance about 8 months before we went on air to see what I could put together. At the time, the only celebrity-based shows were like Fear Factor and like Dog Eat Dog. Remember those things where like you're pitting kind of celebrities against each other? And so there wasn't this kind of warm and fuzzy kind of celebrity-based show. And you're having live ballroom dance with celebrities when ballroom dance at that time was nothing. So we had so many things against us going into the show.
Like, where do you start in putting the show together?
I will say, I didn't even call my lawyer on this one. I'm like, love dance with television. This never is going to go. I'm going to do it as a favor because I love the people that work at ABC at the time and do a lot of work with them. And so I kind of rolled with it. And I just kind of started reaching out to people because the biggest hook was, can you even get anybody to do the show? So, but we just like kept pushing away. And I will say, it wasn't until Evander Holyfield finally said yes to him, like, could you do this? And it was like, oh my gosh, we think we have a show here. Because if you can imagine Evander Holyfield doing ballroom dance. So I finally got a green light when Evander said yes. We went on the air in the summer. In fact, we started shooting at the beginning of June, and I hate to say it, I had planned a trip to Hawaii with my family over 4th of July because I thought, I don't think that we're going to make the 6 episodes. So why don't I plan this little trip in case after 2 or 3 episodes, this thing goes down, we've got the 4th of July plan. It ended up being this hit out of nowhere. And well, when they put you mid-season, you're up against whatever was the Grey's Anatomy. And that was the session that I fought against it. Like, just keep us in the summer because I was so afraid. Obviously, it ended up being the right decision on their part because we are now going into our 31st season. But
when you started with this, and I think it's so brilliant to put Evander Holyfield on, because if you say to anybody, hey, would you like to see Evander Holyfield ballroom dance live? Right. You'd be like, yeah, I think I would like to see that, right?
Exactly.
It's like, so it fired up people's interest. It's sort of two things that don't belong together, like
Exactly.
Evander Holyfield, right?
To see it, but there's something about it that you have to see it.
Yes.
Which is why when I started doing it, and I was like, oh wait, this works. And talk about everything that you preach, which is so right. Of like, if something makes you afraid, jump into it. Don't shy away from it. And so with a lot of these celebrities, it is and was and still is watching their journey. It's like I had asked Adam Carolla once to do it, and Adam said he's never been more afraid when someone asked him to do something, and for that very reason, he had said yes, I'll do it, because it's taking people out of their comfort zones for the celebrities themselves and showing the audience, if these guys can do it, if Emmitt Smith and huge football players can ballroom dance, then you know what? You can do whatever you're afraid of as well. So it feels like it's great to watch the celebrities do it, and it's facing their fears, but it's also the audience learning if they can do it, then you can do it as well.
And I'm wondering if when you launch a business and you're looking for funding, the first question that people ask is, who else is funding you? Right. And you're like, nobody. And like, well, I'm not going to be like, come back. And so was it like that, when you say, hey, we're doing the show, we want you to ballroom dance, they're like, well, who else is doing it?
Exactly. It always is that way. Everybody wants to be where everyone else is, and nobody wants to do it, not knowing who else is doing it. It's like I'm putting the most bizarre dinner party together where there's 12 people or how many people that you would never expect them to be together, but somehow it kind of oddly makes some weird sense. So yes, to get bound to what you had said, people all wanted to know. It's interesting. Like Lisa Rinna was dying to do it. Well, I did reach out to her season 1. She was dying to do it. Her agents told her, don't do it. We don't know who else is on it. I give such props to anybody that says yes to me. I've launched so many shows, and those are always the hardest, the first people to say yes, that are just like taking a leap of faith on what it is.
But I think you're kind of glossing over part of this, Deena, which is that the no's, the people saying this isn't going to work, and like even you were like, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe I'll go to Hawaii. But how do you stay with something when you're getting so much negative feedback? And even in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm not sure about this. How do you stay with it?
Well, you know what? I think you have to believe in it. And I always say, it's like, people can be saying no to me. People could not want to do a show I'm doing. They're not saying, like, announce anything about my daughter. They're not saying something about me. This is my job. And you know what? And I try really hard. You have to persevere. You have to absolutely believe it. And I joke around like I've stalked people. If you say no to me one season, don't think the no is no. Until you tell me you're never doing it again. It's like, I will stalk you if I believe in it. I actually really believe in that show. There are very few shows that have the legs, and there's something that like parents and grandparents and kids can all watch it together. The celebrities will all say it's a journey that they can't explain. You're learning a cha-cha, but there's something about this journey. They learn so much about themselves and their fears, and it's like a therapy session for them. But you have to I think you just have to have a little bit more like perseverance and positive, and don't take things so personally, because it's my job.
Yes.
And you have to remember at the end of the day, it's your job, and you can't let it be it's not a personal thing. And as long as you've tried your hardest, I think that's all you can do. Your gold star.
Yeah.
I can kick myself, and I need to remember to give myself a couple more gold stars, but you can't take it so personally.
Thank you for all that. Everything that you just said is so incredibly valuable, especially about perseverance and putting your heart into something. And it's okay if your heart gets broken.
Yes.
It's going to happen. Like trying to protect your heart while you do something, it will almost guarantee failure. It's like trying to get into a relationship, but not really connecting with someone. Well, I don't want to get hurt. Well, too bad. That's the business that you're in, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, when you talk about stalking people, and I know you're not actually stalking them, but I teach sales training. And the reason that I love sales training is because anything that you struggle with shows up in a sales interaction, right? So when people are telling you, well, I don't know, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you. And you're like, well, that's not a no, right? And then, or if they're like, nah, I don't think so. And you're like, I don't think that was a real no. Let me double check, right? That's where most people get lost, because they're like, well, I don't want to bother someone. I don't want to, I don't want to push them. And really what they're afraid of is that rejection. And your willingness, Deena, to kind of ride that and be like, you know what? I just don't think they're seeing it. Let me work a little harder.
Like if someone is saying no to me to be on a show, like it might have the chance of why is it? Or what if we did this? Or working with it, like what else can you do? Or how it is, instead of just like you take the no and you walk away, like, let me figure this out. What else do you need? Like, do you want to, I got something else. Would you want to do this? And like trying to figure out and also getting into their fears. How can I help you? And sometimes it's down to a silly something that they don't want to say or haven't said. And it's like, if you can try and work it out, I think to me, anything is workable. And it's also letting them know that you care enough and that you're willing to hear them.
Yeah. And that's great too, because what I hear you saying is that you're going deeper into the no. What's behind the no? What's the bigger fear? Like I've had people tell me when I tell them how much it costs to coach with me, they're like, I can't afford that. And I'm like, I don't believe that.
Right.
Because I want to know what's really behind that, because I don't believe it's about the price. What I believe is that there's something deeper, and it always is. And once I find that thing, if that thing is legitimate, I'm like, okay, now I hear you. Like it makes sense.
Once again, you said at the beginning, like slow down. And I have to remind myself that all the time, like slow down, listen to what somebody is saying to you. And there's probably a reason why, but listen to it and figure it out. And work it out. Those end up being the best relationships when you can start on that thing where like work it out together. There is a way to work things out, but just like instead of just moving on to the next thing, which is what we all do, just like take a minute, take a breath, and just kind of and try and figure it out.
Thank you. And you're right. It is listening, right? What are they really saying? Where are they coming from? And that's too many people have their agenda in the forefront of their mind. And because of that, they don't open up their listening skills to really understand where that person's coming from. And I also love what you said about where can I help them? Like, even if they don't end up on the show, where can I be of service? Absolutely. That they feel good about this phone call, right?
And I do that a lot. I get really passionate when I start talking to people, and it's in my head of like these fantastic ideas, but like the passion also is what I think people kind of latch onto of like, talk to me. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do next? Well, it's more like if you're like one of the Bachelor stars, something that's not that big TV star, can I help you with it? A manager, like, even if you're not doing my thing, let me help you figure out how to help you with the rest of your life. I
love your passion, Deena. I bet I could give you 50 pencil sharpeners and you would have them sold by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. No kidding. It's because of your passion. And that's the thing. People get caught up in the entrepreneurial passion, not what you're selling, not what you're trying to do, not your mission statement, but your passion. Right. Yep. And one of the big mistakes that I see entrepreneurs make all the time is they have one success in one thing and they don't replicate it. Right. They don't say, okay, wait, hold on. People like this one thing that I've created. What's something else similar to it that they might like too? And I feel like that's what you did with The Masked Singer. Right? Like you struck gold with Dancing with the Stars, and you must have thought, okay, what else can we do that's kind of like this that people want to watch as well?
It's interesting that the network executive on The Masked Singer, the president over at Fox, used to be one of the executive producers of Dancing with the Stars. And so I do feel like he also had that vision of what can we do in that vein. The same, but different. The interesting thing about Masked Singer, it's like you talked to like Leanne Rives and Jewel and Seal, really successful singers that have gone under the mask. Yeah. There's a totally different experience because suddenly nobody knows you. There are all these celebrities, so you say everybody recognizing you, knowing you. If you're here on my set, if you're a celebrity, you arrive in a car with a hood on. Your hands, feet, your everything is covered. So they're so not recognized by anyone. So you can do and create whatever you want because they don't know. So it's an interesting, different kind of a journey on this one.
And were you a part of conceptually bringing The Masked Singer into the world?
There's a man named Craig Plestis, who's a brilliant man who actually brought over, he and his daughter were at a Korean restaurant and she saw on the television the Korean version. It was either Korean and so he found what it was. He brought it to Fox, where my friend called me and said, what do you think? So that we kind of all did this together, knowing that we could start another show. Launching shows is fun, with that all work. To me, at this point in my career, I don't do or won't do things if I don't feel it. And
Sure.
also if there are good people behind it. Cause I think life's
Right.
too short. I find the passion in it. It could be the
Yeah.
silliest little show. It could be these big, huge network shows. It could be anything in between. And it is fun and it's scary to like start a new show. What else can I do? And let me try and do something different too at the same time.
And when you say it's scary, Deena, doesn't that also fire you up?
It does. It really does. I mean, it's like, so if it's hard, if I'm really scared, I don't fall back. I'm not a victim. I just figure out how to fix it, make it better.
Yeah. And I love that. And there are two opposing forces in this realm, which is if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? Which is what we're talking about. And the other opposing force on the other side is when it's not working, let it go. And unfortunately, there's no needle that shows you which one it is. Like sometimes I'm sure you just had to walk away from a show and like, this just isn't happening. Mm-hmm. And other times it's like, put in more effort. And that's the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand is that you're not going to know which one it is until you like hit the wall, until you're like, okay, I just lost $50,000. I guess it's time to stop. Right.
But also, I don't think you just hit the wall once. For me, I mean, I'll hit the wall 5 times before it's finally like, oh, wait a second. I think one hit the wall, it's like, ouch. And then you try a different way to get around the wall, to figure it out. I'm not a real walk away kind of person, but I won't walk away until I know I've tried everything I can. I'm not the one that's going to just go, oh, it's not really working. It's time to pack up my toys and go home. It's like, let me figure this out. I can frustrate, I can yell, I can cry, I can do all those things. But then once I have my little tantrum and figure it out, like, what else can we do? I just got on stage. I like stomped my feet and got really mad at something, came back to my desk and went, well, there is another way to do this. I'm out there, and then you do come back and figure it out. But if you don't try and walk away, then shame on you.
No, and you're right. You might not even realize what you're learning from the experience that you're taking into the next business, right? Because you can't go back and unlearn it.
You can't.
And so it is that staying with it and that uncertainty principle. It's that 3 a.m. pacing the halls going, what did I get myself into now?
Right.
I had a guy on my show named Glenn Stearns who said, I don't give up when it gets hard because that's the most interesting part of the story.
Right. It is.
The failure is the most interesting part.
Right. If it's all easy, then what are you learning every day? And you have to take a leap. It's like, at this point, I can say I'm successful at what I do. And I know I can produce a TV show. I know I can do this. So when the Women's March came about, it was kind of the same thing. It's like, wasn't thrilled when Donald Trump won. I know that, that's my side. And I kind of started to do that wallowing thing. And once again, to me, it just kicked in. I had heard a rumor. There was something with the Women's March going on. I just heard something. And I said to my sisters, I'm going to do here in LA. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. So I started trying to find Facebooks of the women that I've heard were doing something in DC and literally started pulling a permit downtown. I put up with 10,000 people. I didn't know what it was, but it was like, if I can produce a TV show, instead of sitting at home, I need to do this for me. And if I can do this for me, I think there's a whole lot of other people that need this as well. I've never put on a big march. I didn't know how to do it, but it was like taking the tools that I knew I thought I had and also just stepping outside of me for a second. If I need this, so do other people. And so let me figure out how to do it. And so it was a really interesting process for me of doing something I'd never done before, thinking I was at 10,000 people there. Suddenly we had, the biggest march of the country in the world.
Yeah, right.
We had over 1 million people here in Los Angeles. That one started more passion and fear and helpless. What can I do to make me feel better? And thinking if I need this, somebody else does. But boy, I jumped into something I had never done before,
But what was that like for you? You made the mental choice. I'm going to do this thing. And I don't know you well, but I think I know you well enough that once Deena Katz says, I'm going to do this thing, that thing is going to get done. Right. And so once you decided that, what started showing up that was like, oh, this is different than I thought, or wow, this is really challenging? What started showing up?
It's interesting on that. I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know, I don't know how to shut streets down. I just started I started grabbing my posse. I have a very tight knit group of people that work for me on all my shows. And
Yeah.
if we know how to produce a TV show, surely we can do this. And so it was to me, having the support of the family, but also my work support of guys, I'm doing this thing. I don't know what it is, but let's all do this together. And then started reaching out to celebrities and other people we're going to do this march. We're going to be downtown. I was getting a lower level celebrity that was I'll come on board. Of course, the week of, it was Barbra Streisand and Ariana Grande. Suddenly this thing has grown into this Kerry Washington, the who's who of especially women in Hollywood.
Sure.
That all going on the stage. We're all doing stuff. There's also a lot of fear of, can I do this? Do I know how to do this? But it was pulling permits and doing things. And I kept thinking, you know what? I'm doing this for free. This is me giving back and doing. So it's you can't really get mad at me if you don't think it's successful or it wasn't done totally right. The morning of, I was scared to death. And we got a call that in Australia, they were starting to march. And I still get the chills now when I think about it, because we didn't know what this is going to become. And suddenly we're oh my God, they're marching in Australia for us. It was that we had put something together that was that powerful. And we would get all these calls because it was a bunch of mostly just women around the country that were what can we do? And so we get all these calls every week with we had this sisterhood of women around the country trying to plan their own little marches. To me, I was trying to give more support to the women in Alabama and Texas and places that they're trying to do something in an environment that's not.
Sure.
I welcome them. These are women that were going to have real problems with doing what they wanted to do. So it was us in New York and LA and DC, places where it was easier to do something like this, but none of us knew what we were all new. None of us knew what we were doing, but it was just trying to do something.
I'm picking up these really powerful signals about you as you're talking. And one of them is you have no problem asking for help. In fact, it seems to be part of your standard operating system. Here's this thing I want to do. Who's going to help me? And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle from this idea that they have to do it all on their own. And they forget that there is a world of help out there, and that somehow it's not as valuable, or they're not as productive or successful if they had to have somebody else on their team. And that's crazy. Everything that you're talking about was in support of your vision. Even your family, you checked in with your family. What do you think? They're you can do this, go for it. Right. But so much of it is being able, as Winston Churchill said, to go from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm.
Which you have to remember, I'm certainly not perfect at all. And there's so many times that I end up doing it. And because I think it's just easier for me just to do it. And that's when when it starts to pile up and my shoulders start to, instead of doing this, because sometimes it's not that I don't know how to ask. I figure I don't want to bother you. It's just easier to do it. When we did March for Our Lives, they had the shooting in Parkland and I had heard about it. And so we're making the March for Our Lives logo in my living room, and my husband's on GoDaddy and tried to find what you could clear. So we cleared March for Our Lives and found the kids in Parkland and put 5 of them on TV on that Sunday, the kids that now you all know. And I just remember at that point saying, I'm going to get you guys on TV. I had some help getting them placed on all the Sunday morning shows. And I just remember saying, just go on TV, just say, we're going to do a march this day. We'll figure it out. I know I have to do something. I grabbed a WeWorks place in Century City and everyone meet me Monday morning at 9:00. And we started in one tiny little room. There were 6 of us in there. And obviously March for Our Lives grew. We had 800 other marches and it was fantastic. But it was once again, you have to know it doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger. If you have these people who are there to help you and support you and be there with you.
And I kind of get the feeling that while you're saying this, you're also a little bit reminding yourself that oh yeah, I've got to ask for more help.
Exactly.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, exactly right. Because I'm saying I do it. And then I said to you, well, there's sometimes I don't. And I'm bad. But I have to remember that,
And there's two things around that. Being good at things I think you and I are similar in that, like, we're good at a lot of things. We're really good, but it doesn't mean that we're good at everything.
Right.
Sometimes we forget, oh, that's something I'm not good at, so I shouldn't do that. I give my clients this analogy a lot. I say, look, you're the brain surgeon of your business. So if you're anesthetizing the patient or mopping up after surgery or taking out their stitch, like any of that stuff, someone else should be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you ask for help. And it's often hard to remember. And I think it's also endemic in women entrepreneurs more than men. Women seem to have a harder time, just based on my experience and my coaching, that women have a harder time asking for help than men.
Yep.
Have you found that to be true? Or
I think
yourself?
that we also feel like we're weaker and we're trying to prove more, and like, and also that like we're Wonder Woman, we can do it all. And I know for me personally, it's like, then I don't want to ask for help at home because I feel like I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I want to like, and I love doing that. So I know it. It's just, that's the hardest thing for me. Absolutely.
And I think part of it is your compassion. I think it's just built-in compassion that you think, I don't want them to feel bad, right? I don't want to have to force them to do something they might not want to do.
And you're seeing too much in me right now. It's a great therapy session now as well. And that is true. It's like, I'm a people pleaser to the nth degree, and I don't want to disappoint, and I don't want anyone to do they don't want to do. So much I will do things I don't want to do to make sure that they're okay.
And isn't it funny, Deena, that like clearly you bothered somebody to get to where you are today, right? And when you talk about that, you stalk people, like that's the opposite of not bothering people. But I think it's where, and I'm going to go a little deep here. I think it's where it's connected to you personally that you start to have a little bit of a hard time making the ask. Do I have that right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I don't want to do it. I can ask you anything, especially the, as I call my free stuff, my social justice, all of that stuff, that I have no problem asking anybody anything. That way, you're right. It's the personal part that's the hardest, because then you feel like, am I personally offending you? And do not want to go pick up dinner? Oh no, I'll just get it on the way home. But it's like, my husband's sitting at home. He could get it. Like, no, I'll get it, because I don't want to put anybody out. I feel like work is different. You're right.
It's funny. I think that you could put a woman's march together easier than you can ask somebody to scramble the eggs or the omelet that you're
100%,
making.
100%. Give me the birds. I got you. Yeah. And my family's coming over tonight, and then we're shooting, and I'm like, they're like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh no, it's okay. I'll pick it up on the way home. My daughter's like, Mom, we'll go get the girl home right now. So yeah.
You're great. Look, I grew up with a single Jewish mom. So I saw her struggle, right? I saw her try to do this balance and really having a hard time with it. And she was a business owner. And I saw her compassion get in the way in the same way that you're talking about too. And I think it's so interesting that you're working really hard to help women feel more empowered, and yet you struggle with the same thing.
Exactly.
But it's not unusual, Deena. Like, it's not unusual that the thing that we're struggling with is a thing that we get focused on. And we're like, oh, I want to help with that, because in a way it's also healing ourselves.
Right.
What I find too is that our superpower is also our kryptonite. I think like we might be great at this thing and use it over here, but when we then use the same superpower over here, it really screws us up. And as an example of that, a long time ago, I was dating someone we were like in it for like 4 or 5 months, and the relationship started going downhill. And I'm like, I am not giving up on this. Right. And so like 5 months in, we're at couples therapy.
Oh, no.
Right. 5 months in couples therapy. Right. And she turns to the therapist and says, I would never have children with this man. Oh. And in my mind, I think, I can turn this around. I can fix this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that stick-to-itiveness that has helped me be successful, that completely is catastrophic in other areas of my life.
Right.
And so I'm curious, where does that show up for you? Where does your determination and your backbone and your strength, where does it show up as a hindrance in other areas?
I think it's the same thing you said. It's like sometimes I feel like so much of my job is coddling, taking care, making sure people feel okay, wanting them to feel accepted and love, all of those things, that then I feel like I need to fix everything. And I think in my personal life, I got to just I don't need to be fixing everybody. And I feel like I do that. And you're right. And I won't give up at work and I won't ask for the help, but like I need to be able to do that. And so what happens is it takes a toll on the personal life to me. I think my business life is always okay, but I think that's when and then you have to remember, wait, this is the most important part of all the things. If something has to give a little bit, it's got to give on the work side, not on the personal side. And now you have to remember to be able to reward yourself and not bring it home. I keep going back to your gold star thing of like, don't be so hard on yourself. And it's okay to take a break. It's okay to turn off the phone, and so those are the things that I try to remember, because otherwise I keep barreling through, and that hurts. And I have to do that in my business. I can't take no. I have to keep going. I have to figure out how to get it done, because that's my job. So if you don't have the stars for Dancing with the Stars, there is no Dancing with the Stars. So
right.
But like, I have to remember at home, you don't have to do that, and that's the part that's the part when I like take a breath. And that's what I every day try to teach myself.
And that's that superpower kryptonite thing. The thing that has made you wildly successful can also prevent you from spending joyful time with your family.
Yep, for sure.
And it really is endemic of the entrepreneur to be able to sit down and do nothing and not call yourself lazy.
Right, exactly. That's a step you have to just remember, what, just like let yourself go to the beach every day and work out. Like those are things, and it actually makes me better because of it. But you forget, and you think like, no, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep it. Like, no, sometimes you just need to go, wait a second.
In looking back over your history, it seems like the first 10 years of your career was a lot of what you might call paying your dues, right? Like you worked on Playboy's 50th anniversary celebration and the World Dog Awards. Literally that was the name of the show. And, and looking back, it's like, of course you have to do that stuff. But when you're in the middle of it, there's no certainty of future success. Did you ever feel discouraged or think, I'm going to be doing dog shows the freaking rest of my life?
You know what? I think the hardest part was you're freelance at that point. And you're right. Do you have another job? And is this another stupid, not the best? like you don't really believe in this stuff. It is more work. And so I think I just kept thinking, there is a Pollyanna part of me of like, this is great. These people are great. This is fun. I'm really lucky I get to do this. But to keep remembering. So if like you just stick with it, I still had fun doing Playboy's 50th. It's like, to me, I brought my family. They all went to the grotto that night. It was amazing. So it's like, if you can have some joy in there, like it back.
That's great. And I would bet, like when you go to dinner parties and people say, what do you do? And you tell them, like, do you get pitched reality shows all the time?
I get pitched reality shows all the time, but more than that, I get pitched more with dancing than masking than anything else I do. My husband is so tired of it. Well, have you ever thought of this person? Like, did you really think like Jennifer Aniston, she'd be great at, like, as if I haven't thought of the Friends, but it's like the best dinner party or annoying dinner party, conversation is, what about this person on that show? Have you ever thought of that? And everyone loves to play the game of who should you put on Dance with the Stars more than any other show that I do. It's really amazing. So
that would drive me crazy. But were there some things earlier in your career that you had to struggle with that you think perhaps men didn't have to struggle with?
Yeah, I like I said, an assistant, and then I went and worked at another company, in a management company. And the guys got moved up right away, became managers. I mean, you felt it a lot of who was moving up, who was getting the jobs more than others. And it's interesting. I ended up getting into more of this unscripted television because of a couple of women. And it was I will say HBO was the first one that, because HBO was way back when HBO first started, they were a little more receptive to female producers. And so we started doing stuff, but it was hard. We didn't do like network. You weren't really as much of a producer back then. And so it was hard, but we had this new little like niche of, I was doing a lot of comedy specials and a lot of ice skating specials, believe it or not. And then we started with ice skating stuff, moved into Disney and ABC, but that was kind of our way in where you weren't doing what everybody else was doing, but it was a way to get yourself in there. So we just kind of made our little niche. And so we started doing comedy specials at HBO. And it was our way. And it was this great little group of women that we just started doing these. So,
any way in is a good way in, right?
Anyway, there was a whole group of us. It was this tiny little bubble that we had found that we could produce in where there were men everywhere else.
And what do women entrepreneurs need to know about navigating male dominated or male typical industries?
The biggest problem I think with women is, and I hate saying it, it's like sometimes women get competitive with each other because you're too afraid to deal with a man. And so it's like there's this weird sense of that we end up competing with each other instead of helping each other around. I think that's what we have to learn, that we're on the same side and to help support.
Wow. Deena, I just want to thank you for being so generous with your time.
Oh my gosh. So this
was,
like a nice therapy session for me. So,
but look, everything that you shared about, what it takes to persevere, to stay with it, to stalk people. Your determination is really inspiring. And this is it's priceless information for my audience.
Thank you so much. This was an honor. So thank you so much. And you have a great day. And thank you. The gold star, you gave me so much to think about too. So thank you.
Well, and thank you for being on for Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Bye.
And before we wrap up, I want to remind you to get a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. It will help you take bold new action on your entrepreneurial journey. Text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. And I also want to thank you. Yeah, you. The you who is listening to this show right now. Thank you for opening your mind and stepping into the world of infinite possibilities. My guests, all of them, breathe the same air you do. There's nothing stopping you from taking bold action, opening up your world, challenging yourself to step up and live your life unlimited. I'm Coach Dan Gordon. Thanks for listening. Now get out there and show the world the next greatest version of you. Hey, if you have some thoughts about the show you'd like to share with us, or if you think you've got what it takes to be a guest, send me a text at 213-409-8366. Let me know what you think, or let me know why you think you'd be a great guest for this show. Thanks again for listening. I hope you're inspired to unleash your badass self on the world.